Okay, so today we're diving into some local government stuff. We've got minutes from two Springfield, Ohio City Commission meetings from February 13th and 27th, 2024.
Meeting minutes, huh?
Yeah, I know what you're thinking sounds kind of dry, right?
Rah.
But trust me on this. These aren't just, boring records of motions and votes and all that.
Right.
They're actually like a little window into the stuff a city like Springfield really deals with.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And how these decisions they make, at the level, they really trickle down and affect people like us.
Absolutely. It's easy to forget about local government, but it's where the rubber meets the road, as they say. Even small decisions can have a ripple effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's jump into that February 13th meeting. First thing I noticed, Commissioner Tackett was absent.
Oh, right.
And it's worth mentioning, she was actually in D.C. advocating for epilepsy awareness,
Of course.
which is especially meaningful considering, her daughter's passing. It's just a reminder that these commissioners are real people with, their own lives and dealing with important things both inside and outside of these meetings.
Definitely. It adds a human dimension to it all.
For sure. Now, getting into the minutes themselves, the first thing we see is, the approval of the previous meeting's minutes.
Right. Standard procedure.
Yeah, it might seem kind of procedural, but it actually reflects something really important about, like, good governance, transparency,
Accountability.
accountability, exactly. Everything's recorded, everything's out in the open.
Open for scrutiny, which is how it should be.
Exactly. It's like setting the foundation for everything else they do.
Makes sense.
Now, things get a bit more interesting when we get to what's called first reading ordinances.
Okay, first read.
Basically, these are like proposed laws that need to go through multiple reviews and approvals before they're actually enacted. It's a way to make sure they're really thinking things through.
Prevents hasty decisions, which is crucial.
Yeah, exactly, because you never know what unintended consequences could pop up.
Absolutely. A perfect example of this is that ordinance about the property purchase near the airport.
Okay, the airport, right.
The city wants to buy this land, and it's in the runway protection area. But here's the interesting part. The FAA, a federal agency, is actually encouraging this purchase. They might even give the money back for it.
Wow, really? The FAA wants them to buy it?
Yeah, it's not every day you see that. And it highlights how local, state, and federal governments all kind of have to work together.
It's all connected.
Exactly.
It's like a big web. And then we see a resident, Gary Armstrong. He pops up and wants more details about the property. He's asking about the size and the fact that a house on it will be demolished.
Which are valid questions.
It's a good reminder that these decisions have real consequences for people.
For sure. And speaking of real-world impact, there's a proposal for a pretty big donation to the police department. Over $13,000 for some special software from the Clark County prosecutor, Dan Driscoll.
Okay, software donation. Interesting.
Yeah, and the interesting thing here is that because it's over $10,000, it needs the commission's approval. It's all about transparency and making sure things are on the up and up.
Gotta love transparency. Now, there are a few other first reading items that caught my eye. One is giving more money for junk removal.
Junk removal, huh?
Yeah, I know it sounds kind of,
That's
basic.
boy day stuff.
Yeah, but it shows that they're thinking about the little things that affect people's quality of life, right?
Absolutely. A clean city is a happy city.
Exactly. And then there's the contract extension for Habitat for Humanity's home repair program, which is fantastic.
Love Habitat for Humanity.
Me too. It's great to see the city supporting such an amazing organization. And of course, we can't forget about essential services like the fire department. There's a proposal to spend over $200,000 on new gear for firefighters. 55 sets of new gear, to be exact.
Wow, that's a lot of gear.
Yeah, and the manufacturer says it'll last 10 years, but we both know that's not realistic.
Not with the wear and tear those firefighters put their gear through.
Exactly. 4 or 5 years, max, is more likely. It makes you think about the hidden costs of these services.
It's not just the initial investment, it's the upkeep, the replacements, all of that adds up.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the second reading ordinances. These are the proposals making a comeback.
Back for round two.
Exactly. One that stood out to me involves zoning changes for housing. We see a couple of instances, a commercial area that they want to rezone for townhomes,
Okay, interesting.
and a former church that might become a rehab facility.
A lot of potential there.
Right. It shows how the city's needs are changing.
And how they're adapting. You need housing, but then there are concerns about density, traffic, and keeping the character of the neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's a tough balance. And speaking of evolving needs, they're also looking at adopting new building codes.
Yeah.
Electrical, mechanical, fuel gas, all that fun stuff.
Sounds exciting.
I know, right? But seriously, these codes are super important for safety, especially with new construction and renovations. You want to make sure those buildings are up to code.
Absolutely. It's about keeping people safe. And it's interesting they mentioned that the residential codes are actually lagging behind the commercial ones.
Oh, really? I didn't catch that.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on.
Definitely. Finally, we can't forget about the opioid crisis.
Right. A major issue.
The city's thinking about approving $1.3 million for a substance abuse grant.
Okay, so they're putting some serious money towards it.
Yeah, it's a big problem that needs a lot of resources. And it's not just the city tackling it alone. They're working with the sheriff's office, the mental health board, the municipal court.
A collaborative effort.
Exactly. Because that's what it takes. It
Yeah.
really shows how important it is to work together on these things.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we move on to that February 27th meeting, there's this section in the minutes called New on the Agenda.
New on the agenda.
Yeah, and it's just interesting because it shows that these meetings aren't, totally planned out beforehand.
Yeah, right.
Things come up, they got to be flexible.
Makes sense.
And then there's the committee report section.
Okay.
This gives us a peek behind the curtain. For example, it mentions the city manager met with Congressman Mike Turner.
Oh, yeah. What about?
They were talking about the increase in immigrants to Springfield.
Interesting.
And they're even planning a meeting with Homeland Security to discuss it further.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty big deal.
Right. And it's just tucked away in this little report.
You never know what you'll find in the minutes.
For sure. Dr. Eastrop's report has some good news, by the way. Remember how the city took over running the airport's fixed-base operator, the FBO?
Yeah.
Well, it's making money.
That's great.
They've got a waiting list for hangar space, even. Shows they're doing something right.
Definitely a success story.
It is. But it's not all sunshine and roses, of course.
Oh, no.
He also mentioned that retail theft was up in 2023.
Ah, I see.
But the good news is they're doing something about it.
Oh, yeah. What are they doing?
The police are working directly with merchants and the courts to figure out solutions.
That's good to hear. A collaborative approach, just like we were talking about.
Exactly. Okay, now on to the public comment section.
Always my favorite.
Mine too. You get to hear directly from the people, like we have Vicky King Quick. She wants to know who to talk to about the artwork downtown.
See, those little details matter to people.
Exactly. Then there's Diana Daniels.
Okay.
She brings up this article from way back in 2014
Okay.
about attracting more people to Springfield.
Right, right.
But now they've got this influx of immigrants. So it's like comparing and contrasting,
Interesting. The long-term effects of decisions can be unpredictable.
You got that right. And of course, Gary Armstrong is back.
He wouldn't miss it.
This time he's talking about a rental property owned by a former commissioner.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he thinks there might be some code violations.
I see. Keeping them honest.
Someone's got to do it.
That's for sure.
And last but not least, we've got Steven Sims. He's asking about that new Melody Parks development. What's the impact going to be? And the answer is pretty interesting. They're projecting it'll bring in $68 million in taxes for the school district over the next 30 years.
Wow. Okay, so it's a big
They're
investment.
huge.
Yeah.
But you see how everything's connected.
It all comes back around.
Right. Okay, let's move on to that February 27th meeting.
All right, let's do it.
Every city commission meeting has its own, vibe,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And this one was no different.
What was different about this one?
Well, for starters, Commissioner Brown was out sick.
Oh, okay.
It just reminds you that these are real people with real lives dealing with everyday things.
Absolutely.
Anyway, they get started by endorsing the Springfield Clark County Career Technical Center's levy.
Vocational schools are so important.
Right. Got to support those skilled trades.
Absolutely.
Now, diving into those first reading ordinances, there's some interesting stuff.
Wait, what?
Well, there's a proposal to change the layout of a building, a request for more funding. The usual stuff.
Right.
But one thing that stuck out to me was the city's decision to take over the water and sewer lines at the Villa Run condominiums.
Water and sewer lines. That doesn't sound too exciting.
I know, right? But get this. It took them 18 months to make this decision.
18 months. Seriously.
Yep. And Dr. Astrop even mentioned that this sets a precedent for other condo developments in the city.
Interesting. So a seemingly small decision could have big implications.
Exactly. Okay, ready for a rapid-fire round of other first reading items?
Hit me.
All right, there's a grant for energy savings. Always good news. And the Mow to Own program is getting bigger. which I love.
Vote to Own, that's a great program.
Right? Empowering residents. But then we come crashing back down to reality with the contracts for street materials.
Ah, yes, the less glamorous side of city
Yeah,
management.
tell me about it. Costs are going up everywhere. Concrete is up 11% since before the pandemic.
Ouch, that's gotta hurt the budget.
All right, it impacts everything. Roads, new buildings, you name it.
Inflation is no joke.
Nope. And just when you think they're done spending money, we get to the purchase of a $124,951 remote-controlled slope mower.
Wait, hold on. 100 and how much for a lawnmower?
You heard that right.
Are they mowing down mountains with this thing?
Hey, well-maintained slopes are important.
I guess so, but still.
Okay, moving on to a really big one. The big merger. The city's pulling out of the National Trail Parks and Recreation District.
Whoa, that's a big move. Why are they doing that?
Well, it's part of a bigger plan to merge with the Clark County Park District.
Interesting. Streamlining, I suppose.
Exactly. No more duplicate services, everything under one roof.
Makes sense in theory.
Right. And they've been working on this for a while, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we even hear from the NTPRD Executive Director, Mr. Castillo.
Okay.
He says this merger has been in the works for 10 years.
10 years. Wow.
That's a long time to plan something.
It must be incredibly complex, merging everything together.
Right. Staff, programs, even the Parks Commission itself will be under the county now.
Wow. That's a huge undertaking.
Totally. Okay, let's get back to those second reading ordinances.
Okay, what's on the docket?
Remember the airport land purchase and that police software donation? Both approved.
Excellent. So things are moving forward.
They are. And yep. Remember how we were talking about those rising costs?
Yeah.
Well, the city's borrowing over $500,000 to help homeowners pay for sidewalk repairs.
Wow. That's a lot of sidewalks.
Right. But because concrete is so expensive now, they're giving people longer to pay it back.
How long?
10 years instead of 5, with a cap of $5,000 per property.
That's a little better, at least.
Right. They're trying to find that balance,
Right.
maintaining the city without breaking the bank for homeowners.
Not an easy task these days. It's a tough spot to be in, that's for sure.
No doubt. Anyway, speaking of sidewalk programs, there's another one for $278,600. Seems like they're always fixing sidewalks.
Yeah, it's got to be a constant expense.
Right. Makes you wonder if there's a better way.
Yeah.
Maybe different materials or something.
Could be worth looking into.
Totally. But, okay, back to the matter at hand. Remember that new ERP system the city was implementing?
The big tech upgrade.
That's the one. Well, it sounds like they're hitting some snags.
Oh no, what's going on?
Seems like the modules for human resources, payroll, and the service department aren't exactly playing nice.
Ah, the classic IT project woes. Never goes as smoothly as you hope, does it?
Nope. And deadlines. Those are more like suggestions, am I right?
You said it.
Okay, on a more urgent note, there's the Roosevelt Drive Waterline project. They need a loan for over $368,000 and a contract for almost $334,000 just to replace this water line that keeps breaking.
Wow, that's a lot of money for a pipe.
Right, but here's the thing. It serves a children's medical facility and senior housing. So pretty important stuff.
Oh, wow, yeah. You can't really put a price on that, can you?
Exactly. It shows where their priorities are. Okay, remember those pricey firefighter gear purchases?
Yeah, what about them?
Approved, though they did mention again how the manufacturer's lifespan claims don't really match up with reality.
Well, yeah, firefighters put those suits through the ringer.
No kidding. They deserve the best equipment, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
And speaking of public safety, there's funding for a joint law enforcement operations task force
Okay, what is that?
and a federal equitable sharing agreement.
That sounds complicated.
It's basically about different law enforcement agencies working together and sharing resources.
Ah, so they can go after the bigger fish, so to speak.
Exactly. Okay, shifting gears a bit. There's an ordinance to give more money to Sheltered Inc.'s rapid rehousing program.
That's great news.
It is. But during the public comments, a resident, Otis Williams, brings up a really good point. He says not everyone who's homeless actually wants to live in a traditional house or apartment.
That's a really important thing to remember. Homelessness is complex. It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. Okay, buckle up because we've got another round of emergency ordinances coming at us.
More. They like to keep things interesting, don't they?
Tell me about it. We've got more engineering services for the South Limestone Street project because that new fire station. Then a change order for the US 40 ditch improvement project.
Ditch improvement? Sounds riveting.
Right. Then the Northern Avenue utility upgrade project ran into a snag, literally. They found an abandoned sewer line.
Oh, those are never fun surprises.
You're telling me. And of course, we can't forget about the Fountain Avenue paving project, which also needs a change order. It seems like road construction never truly ends.
It's a never-ending story.
Seriously. Okay, almost done. Just a couple of new appointments to round things out.
All right, who's getting the nod?
Andrea Migliozzi is joining the Springfield Metropolitan Housing Authority Board, and Amanda Lance is staying on the Springfield Historic Landmarks Commission.
Okay, keeping things running smoothly.
Exactly. And for our grand finale, we have, you guessed it, more committee reports.
Can't get enough of those committee reports.
Right. Dr. Estrop talks about a new partnership between Wright State University and the Clark County Combined Health District. Graduate students get some real-world experience, and the health district gets research help. It's a win-win.
Love it when that happens.
Me too.
Yeah.
But then Mr. Rue brings us back down to earth with a reality check.
Oh no, what did he say?
He had meetings with Governor DeWine, Congressman Turner, local pastors, the county commissioner.
Busy man.
Right. And they were talking about all the big stuff. Immigration, homelessness, cuts to local government funding. Tough issues.
No easy answers to those, that's for sure.
Nope. But hey, at least we're ending on a slightly more positive note. Mr. Rue gave an update on that water meter replacement project. Remember that?
Yeah, vaguely. It's a big project, right?
Huge. Replacing every single water meter in the city. But they're doing everything they can to make it easier on people, you know.
Like what?
They've got info online, they're putting notices on doors, even offering flexible appointment times.
Well, that's good to hear. It's the little things that make a difference.
Absolutely. And finally, we've reached our last public comments section. Gary Armstrong is back, of course, talking about overspending and what he believes are illegally operating apartments.
Gotta admire his dedication.
I know, right? Diana Daniels shares another resident's concerns about crime and how resources are being used to help immigrants.
Yeah.
And then Pamela Henry brings up the issue of gun violence at a local strip mall. It's a reminder that even with all this other stuff going on, public safety is still a major concern.
It's something that affects everyone.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into these city commission meetings. What a ride, huh?
I'm exhausted just listening to all that.
Me too.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's fascinating to see how local government really works, you know? The decisions they make affect all of us in so many ways.
It really does make you appreciate the complexities of running a city, especially in today's world.
Totally. And that's a wrap on this deep dive.